Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Football Uncensored podcast. We are on episode 20. I'm here with John Sitton. John, how are you? What's the crack?
Evening, yeah, all good, Joe. Yeah, no complaints. Yeah,
Perfecto. Yeah. And some more interesting results this week. I think probably it would be the best place to start would be the North London derby, Arsenal Spurs. Real St Tottenham's clash, and Arsenal come out on top. What's your assessment of their performance and their progress under Arteta?
yeah. I mean, when I say no complaints, it depends how long you got. I'm fed up with the news. I'm fed up with the goings on with regards to my trade. I'm fed up with London, the mayor, Transport for London, and then I think it's just my own personal opinion. I think we've had the most boring weekend of football since the start of the season. I thought the quality was diabolical, and very. What's the word? I think conservative. Where I don't know whether energy levels have dropped. One assumes that's why you have 22, 23 man squads. There was a big write-up about how he's not afraid to keep rotating, Pep Guardiola. Obviously, there's a difference in quality compared to other teams, and he can swap like for like, and the quality won't diminish. So I just think like the proof of that pudding is in the eating over the weekend. I just think like standards were well off, and it's probably the most boring weekend of football since the season got underway.
Yeah. Interesting game though, Arsenal Spurs. I suppose two very well balanced sides, and Spurs coming off a couple of decent results, and were poor, it seemed, and really got put to the sword by Arsenal, and Arsenal looked much a better side, and seems as though they're kind of turning a corner in terms of they relying on the youth. Obviously, they're young players. They seem to be relying on them to get them out of trouble, but it's working even without Aubameyang, who they left on the bench.
Yeah, I mean they've done the write up about the reasons for that, and I think he's spot on, the manager. Apparently he's got a track record for it. Turned up late, so he dropped him to the bench. I've always maintained the same thing, and I had problems with it at Leyton Orient in my brief tenure, where it shows a distinct lack of respect and courtesy to your teammates, to the manager, to the coaching staff, to the football club, to the supporters. And really and truly, it's a lack of professionalism. Everyone's different, but I was like super keen. I mean, I used to get a shout report to 2 p.m. for a 3 o'clock kickoff for an home game. I used to get there at 1:30 because I couldn't wait to get amongst it. Everyone's different, aren't they? I don't know what sort of point he's trying to prove.
But they seem the pace all year, isn't he? He's something don't seem right with him the whole year.
Well, that's his next problem, isn't it? That's one of his next problems. He's got Arteta's next problems. He's inherited a bit of a culture from like the aftermath and legacy of Wenger, of some of the signings. He's had to get rid of Ozil and all that. Deal with that problem, and so on and so forth down the line. I mean, like the ongoing thing that was going on for years, like with regards to having a decent keeper and centre backs, back four. He's slowly but surely addressing it. I mean, I like the left back, like Gabriel.
Yeah.
I mean, Spurs. I've got to be honest. They look like they seem content to defend. And I actually made a few weird predictions, but I just thought like it was one of them. Just throw one in. I fancied a single goal away victory to Spurs, and it turned out a single goal home victory. I mean, that was a bit special, the opener from Lamela.
What a goal.
I mean, there's a lot of things that needed to be, go right for him. Even down to the goalkeeper not being up the line, probably unsighted, the amount of defenders, the fact that like it could have hit someone's leg instead of going like nutmeg in the far corner. You'd probably try that 50 times, or even 100 times. That's probably the only time it would have happened. I'll be true with you. But yeah, it's a nice bit of audacity and technique and ability and confidence. got them the goal, got them the lead, and then again they didn't.
Then got sent off.
Yeah, it didn't go for the jugular. Yeah, no, he got sent off. But even that, I commented on a couple of things, Joe, and I still think I'm right. I'm not going to budge from it, and it is what it is. You know what I mean? So you know, someone's having a nibble at him. I mean, years ago, he used to do it all the time. Soonest he'd swing his arm, try and catch someone in the bugle. You know what I mean? But when I look at it in terms of comparisons, I drew the analogy. I thought, well, if that's a sending off offence, Gazza would have got a red card every other game because he was past master at it with regards to protecting the ball, keeping hold of possession, keeping his body between the opposition and the ball. And the other one was the penalty. I just thought that it didn't even go out of play. That's how big a miscue it was. He massively miscued the shot. Sanchez, I mean, I don't think he's the brightest of defenders. He's another one who he just gets by on sheer pace and power and athleticism, but that's all a complete waste of time if you undo, what nature's given you by not using a bit of nous. He's coming. Obviously, he's going to try and get the block on, but he's arrived about like 3 weekends too late, which is obviously giving the ref a decision to make. But I still don't think enough contact was made, and you've got the miscued shot and the big scream. To earn the penalty. But truth be told, I don't think Spurs done enough to try and win the game.
No, I mean, it seemed like Kearney down the left-hand side, Tierney, down the left-hand side, was completely had Doherty on toast, certainly for the first goal. And this seems like there's major problems defensively for Spurs. But
yeah,
it seems. Do you think that's a bit strange from Mourinho's side? He usually shores up the defence first, and he seems unable to shore them up at the back. Do you think that's an oversight?
I'll be honest with you, I'm not enough of a Spurs supporter to go into it in depth with regards to what purchases he's made and he hasn't made. But quite clearly, he's sent out. I can see as an ex-player, as an ex-coach, as an ex-manager, someone who's been around the game for I'm coming up to 50 years now. Even though I come out of the pro game at a relatively young age and as a young manager, he sends out a lot of very veiled messages, and he seems like very keen to drive home the point that certain players are not up to it. They're not up to the required level, not up to his required standard. But he's one of them. They've got to make a decision, Spurs. They've either got to give him carte blanche or they'll just rotate again, and another new manager will come in. But if another new manager comes in, they'll probably have the same problem. I just thought, like, at the time they were going on about Pochettino. I said at the time he should have been given money to freshen up the squad, shuffle the pack. And I just thought that I think the goalkeeper's been off the boil for a couple of 3 seasons now. And then I think it's a minimum of 3 seasons where I know they've parted company with one of them. Where's he in Portugal, isn't he? But when they were playing the 3 centre-back system, I just said they're off the pace now for a good couple of seasons. So he's inherited the problem. He's promoted from within. I'd like to know who's been coaching them.
Well,
youth and under 23 level, because they're quite clearly not ready for it.
Just on that point about the veiled threats and sort of insinuating that players aren't good enough.
Yeah.
In terms of management, is the analogy a bad workman blames his tools applicable to management and coaching?
Well, it depends if they're your players.
Okay, so it's only relevant if you've signed them.
Yeah, I tend to think so. Yeah, I think like I'd fall on my sword. If I'd signed them, or I'd promoted them from youth after watching them at under 23 level, youth team level, and I think this kid's got it, or hasn't, as the case may be, but he's got it and he's good enough to be added to the first team squad. Then I say, yeah, it's my call. If you inherit it. Well, people, I mean, there's 2 ways of looking at it, I suppose. So what it could be, the same accusation could have been levelled at me as a kid, like a boy manager, really, at 33. You knew what you was taking on when you took the job. Well, I'll be honest, I didn't. That was born of naivety and getting it too soon, getting it too young. You know what I mean? I'd go into it now. I'd go into it for the last 15 years, 20 years, 25 years since I had the tin tack with my eyes wide open. You know, you've got to ask, is there money to spend? I'm telling you from now, having watched, like, because people, what they do, managers, they watch situations. So quite clearly, you've got like at least 4 or 5 who are not up to it. They're not good enough. Not if you want to challenge. If they want to be 6th or 7th, yeah, you're probably all right. But not if they've got aspirations of being above that.
Just on the self-anointed special one, Rob Curtin on Twitter asked a question where Mourinho sort of labelled a tactical genius when he beats a big side. Spurs beat Man City earlier in the season, and everyone was lauding him for, as I say, being a tactical genius and that. But same sense, when that tactic doesn't work and they lose against a big side, he's labelled a dinosaur. Do you think there's a kind of favouritism? Back in the day, he was the kiddie. You know, the media loved him. But it seems like, you know, there's new kids on the block now with Klopp and a bit cooler, a bit suaver. Do you think there's do you think that's right to criticise him in that, label him a tactical genius 1 minute and a dinosaur the next? And also, do you think there's favourites in the media, and, you know, maybe pulling on some of your experiences where the media jump on the bandwagon a little bit and can basically force a manager out?
Yeah. Clever guys are sometimes clever because they have to be clever, and what they do, they come in and look to cultivate things. They look to cultivate relationships. I couldn't stop laughing when I saw one of his first press conferences, Klopp, and he had a white t-shirt on and a mural on the t-shirt of the Beatles. So I thought, yeah. So when I looked at it, I thought, yeah, pretty cute. You know what I mean? I mean, like back in the day when he first arrived, he was already a European Cup winner with Porto, and he'd had the thing with Robson at Barcelona, and he was the self-appointed, self-anointed special one, and he had it all going on. You know, young manager, media friendly, entertaining, charismatic, had the olive skin, swarthy good looks. And then went away and made massive achievements in other countries with regards to league championships and Champions Leagues. Now, I disagree. The game doesn't really change. All that's changed is the conditions around it. And I think it's wrong to label anyone one or the other, either a genius or a dinosaur. You know what I mean? It's you know, the profession is so fickle. Supporters are so fickle. The media is so fickle. You know, they couldn't be profound if their life depended on it. And yet, you know, you're talking about someone. No, it's just the way it is. They don't like dig up, like the media don't dig up like the real like meaty sort of stories from a selfish point of view. You know, things like the goings on with the black cab trade and Uber in London and the corruption and all that, and the TFL and the mayor, and the fact that they were like $5.5 billion in debt pre-COVID. Now I'm looking at nonsense, you know, brinkmanship they're calling it by the government, with regards to the UK taxpayers' bailout for Transport for London, and they've gone way outside their remit and bought land and all that to build houses on. To my knowledge, that's the 4th completion date on Crossrail, 4 billion bailout on that, etc., etc. So the point I make is there's some really juicy, like meaty stories to get your teeth into, and they go for the superficial stuff. Yeah. And I just think a lot of it, in a nutshell, whether it's society in general or football, which is a microcosm of life anyway, all around Europe, but particularly the UK, they go for the lazy journalism, superficial stuff.
PR regurgitators, isn't they? Really, they get told what to put in the paper. Really,
yeah, or not, as the case may be. Yeah, I mean, there's you know, got good PR or bad PR. No, I mean, I just thought like he was too conservative. He's not. Don't make him a dinosaur.
No,
he's just gone for a thing on the day. My own personal opinion, well before the sending off, I think the game changed on tactically on Son going off injured. Simple as that. So then he's limited to what he can do because Harry Kane's quite one-paced. And I thought the game just was played around him. He barely got a look in. Kane. He got no supply. He got no ball threaded through. Even if the balls were threaded through, he ain't got the pace. His game is either manufacturing something himself, coming deep and finding someone like Son, or vice versa, Son coming deep and threading one through for Kane, or someone getting down the sides, which they haven't really got the quality to put in a supply of crosses. You can't say, unless it was someone like Bale in his prime, he's absolutely going to skin the fullback alive and like whip in a top drawer, top quality cross. It's not going to happen. So I suppose what he's doing is he's trying to make the best of a bad situation. You could give him carte blanche, so go and express yourself, go and play expansive football. This is the pattern. We've all tried all that. But if like Spurs, they're very suspect at the back, you're going to come unstuck. So you can't go gung ho and give the players carte blanche. They've got to be organised. It's their best chance.
Yeah. Fair enough. Makes sense. All right, well, moving on. I thought it'd be good to pick out Southampton-Brighton. That was basically a relegation game, really. Southampton have been properly sucked into the relegation battle. Yeah. Absolutely terrible run of form.
Yeah.
Lost again at home against Brighton. Poor result for them. So I guess the question is for them, can they get out of it? Have they got enough quality to get out of it? How did you as a manager, deal with that situation when you're on a really, really bad run of form and the confidence is kaput? How did you go about that, I guess? And then the second question is just Brighton. How well's Mr. Potter doing,
Yeah. Personally, let's do it back to front. Personally, if you got... See, I'm looking at things now, and some of the statistics, when I compare mine, they were never as bad, nowhere near as bad as what some managers are getting away with these days, and what they're getting away with now. Even down to the league champions, getting beat 6 on the bounce at home. Never happened. And I can't believe the naivety of the coach, the manager, all his coaching staff and the players with regards to persisting in the way they're playing. But that's up to them. What you try to do, you try to come in, draw a line under what's gone on and start afresh every Monday. Or if you had them in on a Sunday for a warm down, start from then.
Do you change the way you play? Is there a point in which you go, fucking hell, we're going to have to just change it now? We can't keep thinking the way we play will get us out of trouble. Is there a point where you go, fuck it, we've just got to...
Well, my smart answer to that is it depends on what's at your disposal. I mean, I had probably the best goalkeeper outside the top division, Paul Heald, a back four that picked itself, a midfield that picked itself, and one goal threat in Colin West, who was in his early to mid-30s, and he was, bless him, he was ready for the knackers yard. The last time I saw, I remarked in my book, the last time I saw ankles like that was on Peter Osgood. But he tried his best to train, etc. So the short answer is it depends what's at your disposal, and it depends how tactically adaptable the players are. We executed a good game plan once, and we actually should have come away with a win. Mark Warren had a cut 3 1-on-1s with a goalkeeper in the what they called now the Papa John's thing. It was the Auto Windscreens trophy. We got to the area final against Birmingham, who spent millions under Barry Fry, Brady, and all that little team. They were now at West Ham, and we were like, in comparison, we were like raggy arse Rovers, with basically 14 outfield players, 15 outfield players. We got narrowly beaten 1-0. I mean, at the end of the day, you can only use what's at your disposal, and it depends if you've got enough imagination and if the players are tactically adaptable enough. That's how I'd answer that one. There's always a way out of stuff.
How many times can you change it before you've just got to say, you know, I
Either
can't
I'm
do
not
it.
good enough or the players are not good enough. Yeah, that's right. No, I understand.
You can't keep changing it, I suppose. You know, at some point you just got to go. Fucking hell.
Yeah. Well, listen, again, I don't want to be a smart ass, but it ties in with all my theories on coaching. And what I said to you last week, you know, I don't know if it makes sense. The more complete the coach, the more complete the player. And yet, like you, I experienced players who never had really the education they should have had as youth team players, either at Leyton Orient or from other football clubs.
Yeah.
You know,
and
I'm talking about players who England youth internationals and their second touch was a tackle. It's true.
No, I can imagine. Yeah. Did you think that come from the culture imbued within you at Chelsea? You know, was you just lucky that you was at Chelsea in that respect?
Yeah, no, without a doubt. I mean, I weren't lucky because I said to you last week, no, but I had a decision to make. But then once you've done the rounds, you've got the very staid, formal, conservative approach at Arsenal, where it was all like everything was very sort of understated and a nod and a wink. You had the extrovert. I mean, I actually forgot at the time about Leyton Orient, a guy called Maurice Newman who, you know, tried to tap the club for a few quid and to offer to me to sign. So I had a choice of 10 clubs. But when you're a kid and you go around, you get a feel for stuff. And without a shadow of a doubt, it was the place to be in terms of education, player education. You know, the coaching was top drawer. Sexton, McCready, Grady, Shalato. You know, probably among the best in the country. So in that respect, I was quite lucky. And I've always maintained that a player, you know, based on a bit of revision, maybe, you know, one session revision with the new club that you're at, which happened to me 3 times, Millwall, Gillingham and Leyton Orient, whereby if a manager asks you to slot in and do a job in a different position to what you used to, in a different system to what you used to or what you've been playing, after a 1 session revision, it should be a piece of cake, should be a doddle. It shouldn't affect your mental approach, your psyche, or your match performance. Because, you know, if you're a well educated, well turned out player, you should be able to cope with it and deal with it. That's my belief. I mean, look, you look at the thing there, Southampton now. There's quite a few clubs in the same category, right? So you're talking about Southampton, Brighton. And I'm looking at it, I'm thinking to myself, Palace are in the same category. Southampton could be in the same category. When Dice leaves, Burnley will be in the same category if he leaves. West Bromwich Albion. So he was talking about the small print. If he stays up, Allardyce, etc., whether there'll be an extension and a bonus. If he leaves, they'll be in the same boat. I think Brighton will be in the same boat. And that being... they've got a lot of players who basically they've reached their sell-by date, right? And there's a few who are maybe still, like we've spoke of in past weeks, previous podcasts, you know, approaching the peak, 10 to 12, 5 to 12, maybe even at 12, someone like Ward-Prowse, and then the only way is down the other side of the clock. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of players who have come either to the end of their contracts in the case of somewhere like Palace, or come to the end of their sell-by date. So it's going to be massive problems for whoever's in charge, B, if they're shifted aside, whoever takes over, and C, whether the club's willing to invest. You know, and I think Southampton fall into that category. I think you probably got too many people who, and obviously it's like we're talking in unprecedented times. So there's been no gate money coming in. It's only been the revenue from the telly, and you still got managers and players complaining about fatigue. Do you know what I mean? So you talk about bite the hand that feeds you. So you know, you play where you're told, when you're told, at what time you're told. You can't have your cake and eat it. But I just think, like, because of unprecedented times, that people have been unable to shuffle the pack. Apart from one or two obvious ones, you know, like Man United and Chelsea, they've been unable to shuffle the pack. Even the champions couldn't bring players in, really. Because there's been no revenue, and he's actually Klopp's actually complained about it. But in answer to those 2 clubs, I just think they're more or less at the same juncture. You know what I mean? With regards to players coming to the end of their sell-by date.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems Graham Potter and Off does seem to have done a fantastic job, and it looks. Well,
Is it any better than Chris Hughton though? Is it any better a job than Chris Hughton? The one he did, because that you kept more or less the same. Apart from Lallana, you've got more or less the same group of players, and they thought by bringing in the guy, who's got some degree in emotional intelligence or something along those lines. I'm slightly paraphrasing. I'll be honest. The only qualification I'll be interested in is, can he coach and is he honest? That's all I'm interested in. I'm not interested in like fucking PhDs in philosophy at Bristol Rovers and degrees in thing. Can he make me a better player and can he improve us as a team? The board at Brighton obviously placed great stock in the fact that he's got a degree in emotional intelligence. And I think they probably signed him thinking or in the hope that they were going to go momentarily ballistic. But I don't think it's been the case. I don't think he's done any better than Chris Hughton.
Yeah, fair point. Can't argue with that. Moving on then. Everton, another terrible home result. Lost at home to Burnley.
Yeah.
I think, let's just check. Yeah, lost last 2 games and possibly last 2 games at home. So
it's a longer run than that, I think. I think it's a run of 5 or 6. They said they said something about them having one of the worst home records in the country.
At home, yeah, I think you're right. Well, they won 3 on the bounce and then lost the last 2. So last 5 is 1-1-1 and then lost the last 2, but they were probably away games. But yeah, 7th in the league. They were just on the edge of the top 4. Seems to be doing well, and 2 shit results.
They're the ones you can't lose if you've got aspirations of breaking into the Champions League places.
Yeah.
Having said that, see, like they're one of the ones, like really, like they're a bit of a letdown. I mean, I thought that they're still making the same mistakes, West Brom, like they did at Palace. So that blew me out the water because I thought that would be a draw. I thought it'd be like an absolute dullard draw, and yet they're still like giving penalties away. Like confetti, like it's going out of fashion.
Yeah.
Everton, I said it'd be a home win, and then but at the same time. So it was like a little bit throwaway, and I've already spoken about Spurs at the Emirates, but really and truly, I should have looked at it a bit deeper in terms of Dyche, because, as you know, I'm a big fan of his, a great supporter of his, and you're talking about someone who's just literally drawn blood out of a stone for years now.
If you was Dyche, what club would you be angling for in the league? Because he's got, at some point he's got to move on.
Yeah, but we said that like 1, 2, 3 years ago, and he still hasn't. He's got to be careful that the same as, so you mentioned Mourinho earlier, which I think is people mention it in the same sort of vein, and it's unfair. But we're talking about players being like 5 past, 10 past midnight. So they're coming down the other side of the clock. So they're not approaching greatness. They're not great. They're a little bit past being great or approaching greatness, right? So managers can come into the same category, and you're talking about ships that might have sailed where Dyche is concerned. I would love to have seen him somewhere, carte blanche at somewhere like maybe a West Ham, so someone like a club. What I mean by that is a club that's maybe on the sort of bobbing between 2 extremes. Like the
Spurs,
extreme.
Is that too big? Are they too big for him?
No, they're not too big for him. No, because he can. At the end of the day, right? He seems to me a principled man, and he voices his opinion. He get at it like he tries to do it a different way, doesn't he, Mourinho? But I think he get at it directly with the chairman and say, no, you can't go this route. I mean, you look at the apart from Kane. I mean, Harry Winks hasn't pulled up any palm trees. You know what I mean?
No.
And gone down the road of like sort of exotica like they did with Oddle. No, just like an unbelievable like fantasy football player. Right. You understand? Yeah. So apart from Kane, I've got to question the youth. Look, they're going on. They've blown their own trumpet about signing a geezer. I've got to question their scouting at schoolboy level. I've got to question the coaching. I've got to question the academy coaching from under 10 or under 9 all the way up to youth team or whatever they call it now. Under 18s, under 19s, then the under 23s. I've got to question the coaching now. I don't even know who's doing it. I promise you, I ain't got a clue.
Well, Ledley King was doing it, and he got promoted, didn't he, to the first team? But,
yeah, I mean,
we was talking about Senrab, weren't we, last week?
Yeah, I mean, I can see the thing there. I could see like a parallel there. When I bought the kid through Perth from the age of 13, by the time he was 17, he was ready for first team football. He was saying, "How are you talking about different levels?" Well, there, but you ain't, because at the end of the day, he went on to have a good Premier League career. So it's about knowing what you're looking at, and it's whether you've got the relationship and the vocabulary, the man management to get a reaction out of the player and question himself so that he keeps improving. I just don't think that's been the case. Where Dyche is concerned, he's got to be careful because he's, like I said, the chances that he might have had, that they might have bypassed him. So I ain't saying he would never get another job, because he would. But what's going to happen? Who's going to take him?
Difficult one, isn't it? It's
yeah, it is difficult. I think it'll end up being a championship side who's got Premier League aspirations.
Mm-hmm. Maybe someone like a Wolves. And if Matey goes somewhere else and he's a bit, like say, Exotica, a bit more, their manager's a bit more possibly sought after in Europe, which is a shame, isn't it? I mean, that's the thing with someone like Dyche. Why couldn't he manage in Europe? The Wolves manager and other managers are touted around Europe, but our manager, our sort of English managers don't seem to be thrown in the ring with those types of jobs. It's an interesting one, isn't it? If Dyche couldn't manage top sides in the Premier League, why couldn't he manage a Fiorentina or a Napoli?
Yeah, I think there's a few ingredients. I think one, maybe as a race, we're all guilty of being lazy and not learning other languages. That's probably lower down the pecking order, but I just think the reputation of the English game in bygone decades, bygone years, bygone eras would contribute to that. People forming opinions, and it's the same in every other country as it is in the United Kingdom. There's not enough jobs to go around, so I don't think they would take the gamble. No. Like the owners in these countries you're talking about, I don't think they'd take the gamble, and they just go, no, we'll go with one of our own. Over here, I mean, a lot of it, I've done a bit. Again, in my first book, I just said a lot of it's down to TV rights and shirt sales. You know what I mean? With regards to average Scandinavians, Africans, Europeans taking the place of good English kids coming in. If they're exemplary, in everything they do, a Zola, a Bergkamp, a Cantona, that sort of ilk, fair enough. You can't argue with that. But I just think for too many years now, so like the flip side of that coin, there's a good chance that we're regarded as over here as like bread and butter managers with no imagination. I mean, the guy, the shining light is obviously Guardiola, isn't he? He's the shining light. He's the guiding light with regards to innovative coaching and passing and movement.
Yeah, but it's funny though, isn't it? Because you look at the British managers that did go abroad. I mean, certainly the ones I think of, El Tel and Bobby Robson and
they've done all right.
Roy Hodgson, they've all done pretty good. Yeah. So yeah, it's a funny one, but yeah, maybe it's a language thing. Man United, West Ham then. Clash of the Titans now. A big game that was. But West Ham are in there, aren't they? They're punching, with the heavyweights now, and I guess got a bloody nose. I know they were away from home, but it's a bit unfortunate, really. That it was a bit of a what's your assessment of the game? I guess 1-0.
Similar to Redknapp's, when they went to half time and they were going to talking to Bobby Zamora, and then Redknapp said, he come in and said, like, you know what, he won't be too disappointed with this, Moyes. The game is going according to the game plan. Obviously, I'm paraphrasing, but he's just said one set piece, one little bit of magic, one little bit of brilliance. It could settle the account. But I just think that was too conservative. I think it was a carbon copy of the FA Cup tie. And then when you set up a certain way, this is what you've got to bear in mind, right? When you set up a certain way, Joe, and like you got an own goal, okay, you got 3 own goal, and I happen to think he was pushed, right? But everything goes out the window.
Yeah.
You can't all of a sudden turn a tap on, and all of a sudden we're going to be this like unbelievable attacking force. It's going to pull the game back. I'm a great believer in not gung ho, but I just think be a bit more spirited, have a bit more adventure about you. And,
yeah, it's either one or the other, isn't it? I suppose there is a middle way where you try and
that's
keep
what
it
it's got to be.
tight,
It's got to be the middle way.
Yeah,
it's got to be the middle way.
Mm.
It's got to be the middle way, and obviously rely too much on again on the same people going forward, and it weren't their day.
Well, if you was Moyes in that situation, so you probably answered the question, but I'll ask it anyway. I know it's a difficult one because Lingard obviously couldn't play against Man United, but would you have chosen a more attacking side or tried to knit the defence and the attack a little bit better if you basically going for the win as opposed to trying not to lose, which I think was what Moyes did?
Yeah, they look. Listen, when you look at it on the screen, they look had a nice shape. They look very disciplined. They look very well drilled. And then when, let's say 1 in 3, when the ball changed hands, what they call this rugby parlance now, there was a turnover. There was a turnover or a transition, yeah. When the ball changed hands, I don't think they committed enough men forward and had enough about them going forward.
No,
and that can be a lot to do with. So to answer your question, that can be a lot to do with the team shape. You know what I mean? Setting up a certain one and not deviating from that.
Yeah,
that can give you a problem in the other half of the game. Which like you've got you've got to get the 2 ends right if you can, and it's like you said, it's somewhere in the middle. Getting the balance right, somewhere in the middle.
Because he likes that. I think we mentioned last week, Soucek, the centre midfielder, big tall fella, great in the air, obviously from a defensive point of view and an attacking point of view. A carbon copy of Fellaini and other big centre midfielders that Moyes likes. But I guess when you need to get players forward quickly, he ain't the person you want to be relying on as a attacking midfielder, quote unquote.
Yeah. No, I actually think he's marginally better than Fellaini, even though I think Fellaini's he was like a proven Belgian international. But I just think he's got I like the bits to his game that he's got. Yeah, I mean, in answer to your question, they're probably relying a little bit more on the set piece as opposed to like slick combination play, and then like short back left exploding and shot in the top corners. You know what I mean? It's more likely to be a rehearsed set play. But you still can't get away from the fact that him and the other guys are 20 million. The pair he's nicked him. Yeah.
And that Barami, is it? Oh, I forget his name. Barami, is it? Who signed from the Championship? He actually come on, I think, after an hour or just after half time, which was a shame because I think he set the game alight a little bit. Just a bit more creative. But yeah, we did ask this last week, but what's your top 4 in order?
City won't get caught, so they're champions. Yeah, I mean, they've played out of their skin, haven't they, Leicester? Even with the injuries they've had. But I still can't see past the City United 1 and 2.
Yeah.
It's tough now. It's tough. I'll stick with maybe I'm letting my heart rule my head. I'll stick with Chelsea.
Chelsea third.
Third. And then if you twist my arm up my back, I've still got a sneaky feeling for one of the other London clubs over Leicester. Either Spurs or Arsenal with so many points to play for still. You know what I mean? 27, 30 points to play for, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It is a big call, yeah. I mean, Everton won't be in now. Everton, they ain't got enough all-round quality.
Nah, I'd say Arsenal probably a little bit further. I mean, Arsenal were 15 points behind Leicester?
Yeah. So I'm thinking Leicester may be 4th.
Okay.
It's out of them or Chelsea, what way round, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
Truth be told, so what it's about now is about what we spoke about really, how bad you want it, because like you've got undoubted ability in the Leicester side, You've got undoubted ability in the Chelsea side, right? All-round ability, good all-round teams, both good all-round teams, and with tactically aware coaches or managers, whatever you want to call them now. So consistency, like I've said, I think is born of attitude and desire. You can't be like unbelievable fantasy footballer one week, and then the next week you're absolute dire. You know what I mean? Like a dog with fleas, a dead dog with fleas, and like absolute garbage. Other than because of the fact that you haven't applied yourself correctly or appropriately.
Just on that, let's say you had a player like, I mean, I thought Eden Hazard was like that for a good couple of seasons at Chelsea. One game he was a 9, next game he was a 6. You know, and it was up and down like yo-yo.
Fair comment. A lot of that was to do with the transfer talk around him.
Well, he ain't done nothing at Madrid, is he?
No. No. Be careful what you wish for.
If you had a player like that, but you had another player like, I don't know, trying to think of an example. Can't think of an exact replacement, but someone that always used like Wijnaldum or Henderson or Milner that were your solid 7s every week, maybe an 8, 7.5 every single week for the whole season.
Yeah.
Would you rather them than a Hazard? Someone that could turn it on?
No.
I mean,
no.
So you would
start with a 9. You start with a 9 and drop to the 7. You say to someone like Hazard, "Go and give me a good hour," right? And then what I'll do is we'll think about substituting you, save your legs for the next game, and then you can get your mind on enjoying your weekend. But get the game won for me, and then I'll come into the same category. You're 7 out of 10 steady eddies who just play the percentages. You put them on to shore the game up.
Mm. All I'm saying is on your comment about consistency.
Yeah.
Them players aren't consistent. So what, you know, would you be willing for them to have a shit game and possibly cost you the game because the next week they can turn it on and win you the game?
No.
Me.
No. No.
So if they weren't consistent, how would you deal with it? Would you not play them even though they were your best player, quote unquote?
Psychologically, what you've got to do, you've got to. I just think it's like a mirage, an hallucination. It's like a little land of make believe whereby you get them to think that they are as important as they are. By me personally, I would set up a system that reflects that. And the only one that I know of who came out publicly about doing that, well, I know of 2 now. One was involving Lord Hudson at Stoke and Tony Waddington. And the other one a little bit after that, more recently, when he became a manager, Alan Ball. And within 3 passes, so a maximum of on the 3rd pass, you must get the ball to Letitia. So you could set up quite easy set up system.
Almost
and
like you could also approach.
Yeah, and you could also do drills defensively whereby he's out of the equation. You know what I mean? So you're not anything he contributes, which he was never really, from what I saw, a great contributor defensively, with recovery runs or putting a foot in or closing down or pressing. You could set it up so that other players do all that for you. You know what I mean? So it's almost as if you're playing with 10 men when you lose the ball. And you could do sessions, which I used to do sessions. You must cater for someone being sent off. At least once a week, you do a session where you cater for someone being sent off.
It's fascinating that because you're sort of saying, don't worry, you don't need to track back. You know, we'll basically make sure everyone's doing all the doggy for you, but you got to fucking win us the game. Yeah. You know, that's the quid pro quo. Yeah. Everything's on your shoulders. Can you handle it? We'll help you, but sorry, but welcome to the men's room.
Yeah, I look at a player like him, and I just think he's one of them. You're the one who's brought him up, right? I just think he's one of them. You could, if you wanted to, unless there was an absolutely 100% better, more outstanding candidate, you could actually give him the armband and put that responsibility on his shoulders and just say, look, I don't only expect you to win the game for us, I expect you to be a leader of men.
Yeah.
See how he reacts to that. So what you do, things like that, Joe, what you do that in pre-season. Even though it's pre-season, you do it in pre-season. Even though it's pre-season and it's probably not as intense, you could get away with forming an opinion based on what you saw in pre-season. Then again, maybe not, because I made the mistake of giving someone the captaincy, and let's put it this way. It was one of those situations yet again where I judged people by my own standards. So I was firefighting behind his back, Frank Clark, and I policed the dressing room consciously and subconsciously by the way I conducted myself, and stamping out little fires, even from some players that he'd bought and rescued from places like Crystal Palace reserves. And then within a couple of weeks, they were bad mouthing him. So, you know, I was the type of captain, I was setting out fires on behalf of the manager. And then it got to the stage at the club where I had a brief chance. People started to look after themselves a little bit. And then the captaincy with injuries and people, are they injured? Are they not injured? Are they elongating the injury? You know, because the club's losing money and it looks like it's going into liquidation. They don't really want to roll their sleeves up and have a go. Are they making the injury last longer than it should be? So in the end, something I didn't want to happen that happened when I was a player under Peter Eustace. The captaincy became cheapened. The armband became cheapened.
Mm-hmm.
The status of it was cheapened. So, you know, that's something that disappointed me. But no, I mean, like someone like him, I'd take a chance. I'd say, go on. You know, you're not just a match winner. Let's see if you're a leader of men.
Yeah, it's psychology again, isn't it? I mean, obviously it works with someone like Ronaldo at Portugal. Absolutely dragged them to finals, and
yes, yeah, over the years, yeah.
And yet, hasn't worked for Messi.
Yeah,
you know, so it's funny, isn't it? It's all about mentality, I guess.
Well, look at him, Maradona. Everywhere he went, when he had his little like managerial thing, he everyone looked up to Maradona. Who does he take with him? He takes with him an ex-teammate, centre-back, Argentinian centre-back. Mm. And he's like, basically, he's relying on him to be the fundamentally underpin everything he does. And he's the one that takes the training, forms relationships with players, speaks on behalf of the manager, and he keeps it to a brief pre-match G-up. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, I think it's about the relationships you cultivate.
Fascinating. Question from Twitter, from the Twitter handle APY. It's actually quite a complicated question, so I do apologise, APY, for not probably being able to go into the actual complications of the question whilst it was a good one. I think the actual specific question was, can you pick the best first 11 from a maximum of one player per team in the Premier League plus 3 subs? But it might be worth just simplifying that a little bit for listeners to, you're the back in the day Football League rep team manager, aka 92 Wembley, the Football League 11 versus the rest of the world. that exists now, 2021. You're the manager. What team do you pick to represent the Premier League against the rest of the world?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'll be honest with you, it drove me mad it drove me mad for a good hour, because I just thought, well, what does this geezer want? Does he want a thing whereby you're giving people a game and you pick a player from each team, including 3 subs, right? So it's more or less the Premier League, right? So you've got your 20 teams, so you're looking at like 14, 15 players. So at least 14, 15 clubs are going to get a mention in dispatches. But when you break it down, you say, well, do you want a team that's made up of 1 player per club, or do you want a team that's going to win?
Yeah.
If you want a team that's going to win,
let's go with that.
It's going to mean you've got to take more than 1 player per club, because there's certain players you just wouldn't leave them out.
Yeah. Go on then.
Yeah. Well, going with the first theme, I actually dipped into places like Burnley and got Pope in goal, right? And then I'm thinking, and I'm going to be pro-British, and I'll have his understudy be the Man United kid, etc. Mm-hmm. But I just think when it comes down to it, again, it depends on the next thing is, how do you want to play, right? So if you go with like,
well, you're the manager, so.
modern day idealism, right? You go with a Manchester City goalkeeper, right? Then you look at the system you want to play in front of him. So me being me, alluding to how I think England should set up, and it's like you've got this metamorphosis where it can evolve or devolve into different formations. My favourite formation is 5-diamond-1, right? So 3 centre backs, Van Dijk in the middle, to the left Maguire, to the right Stones. Right wing back, tailor-made for it, and probably used to playing now more than anybody, quite consistent, puts in a good supply, but he's got to improve on his defending. I'll go with Reece James at Chelsea. Left wing back, it's a close call. It's a very close call. But I've got to go with the Manchester. No, see, no, I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to go with. The 2 Liverpool fullbacks, right and left. Okay. So Alexander-Arnold pushed in on the right, and is it Robertson pushed in on the left?
Yeah.
So now, out of the back 5, you've got 3 Liverpool players, right?
Who can't keep a clean sheet for love nor money, but yeah.
Well, yeah, but I mean, but that's all blamed on Van Dijk. Yeah. Yeah, but see, you look at. I'm looking at the quality between Reece James in terms of supply between Reece James and Alexander, because neither of them can defend.
No.
I've said Reece James has got there's room for 100% improvement in his defending. His recovery runs first, then his defending. Because I think he's got to move that fat ass a bit quicker. Right, because he is a unit, right, and his recovery runs have got to improve 100% before you can improve before you can improve the defending 100%. Because if you're not in a position to defend because of your recovery run, you can't defend, right? So now I'm just looking at us going forward, and I'm thinking to myself in terms of the shape he puts on the ball. It could be a dead ball, it could be like a cross on the run, it could be a corner, it could be a wide free kick. I just think Alexander-Arnold just shades Reece James.
Okay.
And then on the other side, for me, because he contributes defensively and he's got a good mentality, I think he's hard as nails to break down. I'll give it to Robertson in front of the Manchester City left wing back.
What about the other jock? Tierney, Arsenal.
Tierney. Yeah, well, that was the other one. I've got it written down on the pad over there. That was when you're dipping into 1 player per team. So out of the Arsenal team, I'm thinking, who would I like out of the Arsenal team? Well, you're not going to put Aubameyang or Lacazette in front of Kane and Salah, who I had up front, right? This is dipping into one player from each team. I had Kane and Salah up front, right? And you can either go Kane, Mane. Because Mane's a little bit more all round and maybe edges it on pace over Salah, right? So when I went down that road with regards to player per team, I went for Tierney, believe it or not.
Great minds think alike. And then in the middle, did you play defensive midfielder? You got the diamond, didn't you? So who did you play at the bottom of the diamond?
Well, that's right, at the base of the diamond, and then you've got like the double reinforcement based on Greek military history, and the best way to defend a battlement is what they call the delta formation. So I've got a double delta or a double diamond, right? So you've got like the 3 centre backs, then screening the centre backs, you've got like a central midfield player, and I still think he's the best in the world at it. That's Kante. So you know, there's your part of your Chelsea conglomerate. Right, so now midfield. I'm looking at
De Bruyne, haven't you? Got to have De Bruyne.
I'm looking at it. See, I had this row with Adrian Durham. Let's say heated discussion to and from by message. He's in the thing. I'm driving him fucking mad. He's going on about De Bruyne playing central. Well, I said, well, how comes he always ends up in the right-hand channel, the right-hand tranche, if you cut the pitch up into 3/3 long ways, whipping in that crossfield ball or that cross or that ball that fades in behind a retreating back 4, right? So I'd have him to the right of the diamond. So Kante at the base, the screening the centre backs, De Bruyne to the right.
Okay.
To the left, because I've got a soft spot in my heart for him, and I think Chelsea should ultimately build a team around him, I'm going to go for Billy Gilmour.
Okay.
All right, which that's going to put the cat amongst the pigeons.
Yeah, I'd say it would. Yeah.
You obviously disagree.
Well, he ain't played all season. That's the problem.
No, he ain't. No, he ain't. Because people are afraid of putting kids in.
Yeah.
People are afraid of putting kids in, and Frank probably lost his job because of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or one of the reasons. You know what I mean? Because like you've got to be willing to accept now, not when I played. From a selfish point of view, you've got to be willing to accept mistakes. You've got to be willing to accept bad games. You've got to be willing to accept inconsistency and consistency levels, which you don't come until you mature. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, you throw one in then. You give me one. Left of the diamond. Who would you have left of the diamond? So we've got the back five. We've got the goalkeeper. We've got the back five. Now we're just looking to complete the diamond.
I'd put Foden in there. Or Grealish.
Yeah. All right.
But it depends who you put at the front of the diamond. But
yeah.
I think
I'll hold my hands up. I wasn't even thinking of Grealish because he ain't been playing either. But I'll go.
No,
I'll go.
Foden's been playing.
I'll have Grealish because he comes in off that left hand side, doesn't he? Right. So Kante to the right, De Bruyne to the left, Grealish. Now we need someone off for the front man. Because
possibly Foden. I love him. I absolutely think he's one of the best players in the league already. Absolutely love him to bits. I think England should build a side around him. I think he's that good.
Yeah.
But but then you've got Maddison. I'm just thinking they're English players, but you've got that kid for Leeds, that young kid. What a player he is.
What, the one with the top knot?
No, the left-footed one.
It's compulsory. You've got to have a top knot to get in the lead side.
Yeah.
It could be anyone. Could be anyone. See, look, I can make a case for him. Lewis Dunk at Brighton.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm Spurs, I'll be looking at him. You can make a case for the Burnley centre-backs. Consistency beyond belief for the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
Under Dyche, who's also an ex-year. Me, Tarkowski, he was looking about an England call-up.
I thought you meant you then for a minute.
I was looking at him for an England call-up last thing. Then who do you play off the front? I mean, you could say, it's like balls in the bag, and it's just like you put your hand in, you pull out for the lone forward, Kane, Salah, Mane,
Son.
Aguero. Yeah. I mean, I'd probably play Foden or Son off for the front man, so you get that rotation going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if you're going to play Son, you might as well play Kane.
Yeah.
Exactly. Take some beating that side.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting question because it does make you think how good the Premier League is versus the other leagues in Europe specifically, and it's coming this season in Champions League. What was it last 8? There's three English clubs in the last 8.
Yeah, listen. Going back to the centre back situation, being a ex centre back myself, you could make a case for either of the Brighton centre backs.
Yeah,
you can make a case for the kid who I was talking about last week at Fulham, the fair-haired Scandinavian fella. You can make a case for
Anderson. Yeah.
I mean, if you're the likes of Spurs and Arsenal, you should be looking at these because you got they're better than what you got. I mean, I think at Arsenal, I think he's got massive potential because he's the full package in terms of his physicality, and he's quite cute, knows when to stop the game and commit a tactical foul. Gabriel.
Yeah. Is it Conte at Villa as well?
But you've got you need to think about like your likes of your Spurs, your Arsenal, your Evertons, even Chelsea. I mean, they still ain't got that right. Not for my liking.
No.
You know what I mean?
Well, they're relying. I mean, to be fair, they're keeping clean sheets now. But obviously, they brought in Silva. What was he, 36 from PSG? Actually, he's done well when he come in. I know he's injured now, but you know, they're relying on old blood. We're talking half 12, aren't you?
Then look at the Leeds game. They relied on luck. Look at the woodwork. The goalkeeper was like backpedaling, getting like literally fingertips to it. getting rebounds, saving with his legs. They was like in behind the two centre backs too easily for my liking. That's to me, that's a massive problem area that's got to be addressed.
Okay, moving on to a controversial subject.
Hopefully it answers him. But if you want to win inside, no way can you pick one player out, because you do, but then you're eking out its credibility. You're stretching credibility. You understand? I'm going for things like 4-3-3. I think I had Salah from Palace. This is if you're going to pick players out of other teams that are languishing in and around just above the relegation zone or the relegation zone.
Yeah. I want to come on to this controversial topic, John, which we haven't spoken about since we started doing the podcasts, and that is women's football.
How's it controversial?
Well, I think it's controversial in that we shall see, I guess, when I ask you the questions. But obviously, there's been a real step up in promotion of women's football, probably over the last.
Oh, without a doubt.
Probably only the last 3 years. And it's been, good, substantial. Obviously, a lot more female pundits commentating on men's football and stuff like that. And just more promotion in general. Women's football's on the telly now. So what's your general thoughts on it? What's your general thoughts on the quality of women's football? Do you think that this kind of promotion of it is kind of needed as a kind of a positive affirmation of the women's game in order to get it to a level that brings it anywhere near the quality of the men's game? Do you agree with how the FA have approached the women's game and promoted it? I guess is a general question to start off with.
Well, the short answer is yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I do agree. Why not? At the end of the day, it's a sport, and the sport is. There's no reason why it can't be. Both genders can't take part. So full marks of everyone involved in promoting it. Coming back to you a bit about the punditry. It's like, along with everything else, it's become a reflection of society. So you've got people are bending over backwards to the extent of positive discrimination for this inclusion. BBC springs to mind with female pundits. It'd be interesting to see. Let's say, for argument's sake, fast forward 10 years, and you've got like you've got now, you've got the Women's Premier League, you've got European competition. As far as I can tell, as far as I know, I haven't really seen or heard any male pundits covering the women's game. So
I think they used to, didn't they? Back in the day when it first started.
Well, I don't know. I'll be honest with you. That's because I don't take notice of it.
No.
If you want my honest answer, it's nowhere near. It's nowhere near the breakneck speed, technique, and excitement of the men's game. So you've got a question: are we paying lip service to it?
Do you think that it could be an elite sport, or do you think it's an elite sport now? And the reason I ask that, and this is why it's controversial, I guess, because there was a bit of a controversy when Emma Hayes, who was the Chelsea women's manager.
Yeah, no, I know she is.
Yeah, and she was sort of linked to the AFC Wimbledon job, which is League One, the men's job, and the insinuation, I guess, from the journalist asking the question was that was a step up for her as a manager of the women's Chelsea side to manage a men's team in League One, and she didn't think it was a step up. And I guess what do you think? Do you think it is? And she said, look, I'm working with elite level players. Is it? Should we even compare the two sports? I guess
they're only elite within the framework of the women's game. They're not elite anywhere else. When you look at the men's game, you talk about elite players, and the difference being those players could play anywhere, in any club, in any country, for any club, beg your pardon, in any country, and probably getting most national sides. When you talk about the elite of the men's game, it's not the case with the women's game. The women's game, the elite women players are only elite to the women's game, no one else. I think she's wrong. I disagree with her, but then again, I could see it from her point of view, because what you've got to take into account a couple of things, which are from experience, and it shows great awareness on her part. And I only know it through bitter experience. It's about a lot of ingredients, and I'll give you two massive ingredients now. One of them is credibility. I could go out and put on a session with the full national England side, the England full national side, in the build up to the Euros, and be as comparable as good, if not blow away anybody else on that staff. But I've got no credibility because of a Channel 4 documentary, and I'm a lower league Muppet, lower division Muppet, right? So that's a massive, massive, massive thing, credibility.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Even down to punditry, it's about credibility. I'm looking at Jermaine Genius. Well, let me quickly go off piste here, but it ties in with my point. I'm looking at Jermaine Genius, right, who had half a career, right? If you look at him, he played something like 20 games a season all his life, there or thereabouts, because I broke it down pro rata per season, right? But he's got the credibility because he played for Spurs, he played for Newcastle, he played for England, and yet he's coming out with claptrap about Fulham and about the way praising Scott Parker and the way they wanted to play. And they got absolutely mullered, mutilated, punished by Manchester City, right? So I would say to Scott, if I was the pundit, if I was in Genius's chair, I'd say maybe Scott has suffered a little bit there from idealism. It's all very well wanting to play out from the back and leading the way. And he said, this is him. It's a slight paraphrase. I might be one word out. Genius said, I used to like a manager who gave me a sense of direction, right? Well, that sense of direction, where Fulham were concerned, was getting beat 3-0, whatever it was, 2-0, 3-0.
3-0,
right?
yeah.
Okay, so what I would say to Genius is, if you want a sense of direction, son, I'll give you a sense of direction, because what I'm going to do, I'm going to teach you every aspect of the game, whereby if we get an opportunity to play out from the back, we'll play out from the back. But if we don't get an opportunity to play out from the back, or if we're coming up against a Manchester City, I'm going to teach you to be pragmatic and realistic. And I'm going to teach you the other side of the game. That's what I mean. That's the difference, in my opinion, between me and Jermaine Genius, whereby I'm looking at someone who's the complete coach, like I've said before, who can turn out a complete player, right? What he's saying, oh, I just want a sense of direction. Well, that sense of direction led to defeat, right? I admire Scotty Parker because all I ever asked for, all I ever wanted from a manager was a sense of direction. That sense of direction should constitute you teaching you both sides of the game. And it's like I said, a key word in the game, when I said it in last week's podcast, is recognise, right? So he's only give half, I'm giving 100% punditry, he's given 50% punditry, but he's got the credibility to hold down a job at the BBC, right? So back to Emma, right? It's all about credibility. She'd have no credibility in the men's game whatsoever, right? Secondly, she's working for one of the biggest clubs and best regimes in terms of employee welfare in Chelsea Football Club on the planet. So it's about working conditions. So why would you go to a first division club, right, who basically they're in the relegation zone and they're scrapping for their life to not drop into the bottom division, what used to be the old fourth division, and leave a place like Chelsea Football Club? All due respect, look, Joe, ask yourself this question. You're in my shoes, right? I'll get asked now, would you have preferred to stay at Chelsea for 15 years, or would you have preferred to have been at Millwall, Gillingham and Leyton Orient for the rest of your career?
It depends if you're playing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, if you're playing at Chelsea, you stay.
I was playing. But then I had a couple of bad games. I had a bad attitude. I questioned the training regime. And I was a gobby teenager. And then I started to become a man. And I'm questioning like a World Cup winner, which no one had the balls to do. Because all he did was run the bollocks off us for 9 months. That's not making me a better player. That's not making the back four a better unit. That's not making us The midfield, a better unit to create chances, get involved in combination play, phases of play, earn set pieces. That's not teaching us to score from set pieces. That's not teaching us our forwards, although we couldn't score on a stag night in a brothel in Amsterdam, right through the club that run. He didn't put us in a position where we were creating chances for the forwards. So I had to question the all-round training regime, which I've been over before many times, either a 7-mile run in Richmond or a jog round the track, few stretches, 1 800, 2 400s, 4 all shoes, 4 box to box, 4 sets of doggies and a 9-a-side. There's no education now.
No,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the bottom line is, it's another thing that she's got to question. She's got to question the working environment, the conditions she's working under.
No, I understand. All I was thinking of, I suppose, was, there is, I think the women's game obviously needs to catch up. It needs to do. It's nowhere. It hasn't got the history and the development and the money that the men's game have got. And I think it's great that they're getting exposure, and that should hopefully start the snowball going, in terms of them developing the game and improving, and getting more grassroots, young girls playing it, which would be brilliant. But it's interesting that if that opportunity did present itself, which it sounds as though it did, and let's say, for argument's sake, Emma did take it and did really well, and won and got credibility, that could have progressed the credibility of women's football.
Well, if it's
25 years potentially.
Listen, if it's not her, Joe, I apologise, but I think it was her that said it's only a matter of time before a woman does become a manager in a male environment, in the men's game. Yeah. Right. So if she feels that strongly about it, why didn't she take it?
Yeah,
maybe she ain't got the confidence. Maybe she ain't got the confidence. Maybe she knows she ain't got the credibility. Because let me tell you something. We were talking last week. I questioned. Listen, you're talking about fine margins. It's nothing new to me. No one's. It's not news to me. This is not breaking news to me. This is not someone educating me. I've always dealt with. I've always spoken about. I've always articulated fine margins, even to the extent where last week I said to you, I could never understand a manager, a British manager, not that there's loads of British managers. I think you've got Sam, you've got Roy, you've got Sean Dyche, you've got Moyes. That's it, isn't it?
Graham Potter.
5.
Scott Parker.
Right, 6 out of 20. So it's not even 50%. in the Premier League, right? Anyway, what I said to you is I question the fact that, because I know players, particularly modern players, right? Because I know players, and particularly modern players, when I look at what they're getting away with in games, it leads me to question what they must be getting away with in training. So working your way backwards from that, right? Players as you do, and myself included, if you can find a way to cut corners, it's human nature. They tend to do it, right? So by aversion, they make excuses. So in a dressing room where you've got full of British players with no language barrier, and you know that players already make excuses, why would you increase that possibility when you've got a language barrier and you surround yourself with 70% foreign players? Well, so let's say in the squad of 21, there's 14 foreign players. So you've got 14 language barriers there, right? So I've never understood British managers. I'm not saying I'm being insular and introvert. What I'm saying is, why would you put yourself in that position where you've got a breakdown in communications if you're questioning a player's defending, recovery run, decision-making, energy, appetite, approach to training, approach to punctuality, approach to games, right? I wouldn't put myself in that position, right? So with that in mind, maybe she knows that she's better off dealing with women, right? And what that is inadvertently, unintentionally, but at the same time intentionally, it's a compliment. Because I've been told secondhand information a long time ago by Jimmy Greaves' son, Danny. He coached in a male environment at Southend, and then he did women's football, and he far preferred women's football. He said for the simple reason they've got an appetite for the work and a thirst for the knowledge. So basically, it makes your job 50% easier. It's one of the main reasons why I swear for the last 5, 10, 15 years, 20 years since I walked out on a non-league club after played 5, won 4. No, beg your pardon. No, the first 4 league games, I walked out. We played 4, won 3, drawn 1, scored 12, conceded 2, were second in the league. I refused to jump fences, and it's why I stopped applying for jobs. I refused to jump fences with regards to trying to convince the chairman I was doing the right thing by his football club and by his players. I refused to jump fences with regards to players, coaching them, knowing that you were giving them top drawer information that wouldn't be out of place in the Bundesliga. You're giving them top drawer information that wouldn't be out of place in the Premier League at any level, academy level, first team level, whatever. So I refused to jump fences to convince players that I had their best interests at heart. So I thought, you know what, fuck this, it's too hard.
Refused to compromise, yeah.
Yeah, so I walked out. So maybe she's got that at the back of her mind, whereby she knows that women are better to work with. Because I've even heard it from men that the women are better to work with.
That's an interesting. Yeah. So she was saying about, she's dealing with elite level players, and maybe you've hit the nail on the head there, that the definition of elite level players in terms of the women's game isn't that they're better than elite level men, but actually that they're elite level players in the sense that they soak up stuff like a sponge and they listen, and they're much more professional maybe than players that are languishing at the bottom of League One.
No, it's like, well, yeah, I agree with you. I'm going to come at it from a different angle. You're 100% right making that point. 100%, you're bang on the money. Yeah, I agree.
It's an interesting one.
Two of the most elite human beings.
Lost.
4 of the most elite human beings I've ever met in my life were Ray Wilkins, Carl Oddle in football, and my father-in-law and my wife's godfather outside of football. And what made them elite was their class, their dignity, and their humility when it came to being.
I thought he was going to say me then, John.
Well, listen, it ties in with your point. So well done you, because at the end of the day, part of being elite is I just think the way you conduct yourself in terms of humility.
Yeah.
And this is all part of the self-analysis that I went through in doing a book, because I knew that I didn't come into that category. I was too brash, too loud, too leery, too outspoken, and I came to realise that's one of the reasons why we haven't achieved anything since 1966. And the hardest job, it should be the easiest, but one of the hardest jobs is national team manager, because you're dealing with all these different egos, whereby
Madonnas.
Well, yeah, it's become a cliche whereby they talk about leaving your ego at the door and all that, and there's no egos in this club. Well, there is all over the gaff. Any club you walk into, the hard part, and I'll tell you what taught me it, and I should have learned it because I was doing it from the age of 12, and then I made the decision at the age of 15 to leave it because I was a schoolboy for Chelsea and I was coming up to sign apprentice. Was martial arts. You get if you didn't walk on the mat with humility and bow at the door and then walk on the mat with humility, and then I got a scholarship from the PFA to go back into it, and I trained mostly 6 days a week, sometimes 5 because my body needed a rest, to earn a scholarship to become a teacher in judo and jiu-jitsu, right? And jiu-jitsu is not the stuff what you see with like cage fighting. It's like you've got jiu-jitsu and you've got aspects called aikijitsu, right? Which is the Segal stuff. Arm locks, shoulder locks, wrist locks, throws, all of the above, right? When they say a lock, what they mean is if you take it another couple of degrees that way, you take it to 7.5. If you take it to 10, you snap it, right? So what I'm saying is, I learned my humility from that and from being ostracized from the game. It was the biggest climb down from a personal point of view I'd ever experienced. It was the biggest custard pie I'd ever had in my life. And then, you talk, if you give it an attitude on the mat, you get a fucking slap, from one of the bosses. You know what I mean?
No, but it's management, it teaches you, like you say, to be respectful.
Well, some people have got it. Some people have got it. And there was too often when I didn't agree with something, I never had it. I'll say, because life's too short. You know what I mean? It's flown by. I've gone from being a 12-year-old at Arsenal 50 years later. I'm 62 in October. It's gone in fucking 5 minutes, mate.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So at the time,
Profound.
I thought, well, why fuck about? Just get straight to the point. And there's times when I did it at the wrong time, and there's times when I not only did it at the wrong time, I worded it inappropriately. So what I can see exactly where she's coming from, and I can see exactly and what ties in what you said. And we'll never be elite in the men's game unless, I'm saying it for probably the 50th time on 50 different interviews and different aspects of my book, the first book, A Little Knowledge is a Dangerous Thing. We will not do anything unless all the egos are left at the floor, at the door, and then we sit and we listen to our teachers.
Yeah. What a fantastically insightful thing to say, John. Yeah, really interesting that.
Johan Cruyff said, "We don't need more coaches. We need more teachers."
Mm. So elite is actually a state of mind. It's a state of mind. It's not ego. It's
as much as anything. Well, it's ability, it's playing ability and technique. But as much. But
that's almost a given, isn't it? That's almost a given if you're playing for England. Yeah. You know, you got to have ability. Yeah. But it's that, and that's what we've always lacked. You know, elite is relaxing. You know, learning, not being a sponge, knowing that you can always improve, and when the penalty shootout comes, embrace the challenge. That's what you've trained your whole life for. Don't shoot yourself, because that shows mental cowardice, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's no reason why football shouldn't copy life, as in education. Education, it's a lifelong process. It's not an overnight thing. So I just think like it's like the we've been conned, and you look at the arrogance on the face of it, the arrogance of the Germans and the French, but then when behind closed doors in camp, most of the time they've had a few blips. The French and the Dutch have had a few blips where they've had internal rows, but most of the time, but I'm thinking more in terms of the Germans, they've got that forensic mindset where they can separate, you know, this is the body language I'm going to give off as we're walking up the tunnel and while we're playing, but while we're on the training field, I'm going to listen to the governor. And that's why they've achieved far more than we've achieved. And then with you can throw those ingredients in with the Italians and with the Spanish and with the Argentinians and the Brazilians, because what they do, they knit it in to their nationalism and their jingoism and their patriotism. Well, in this country, it's a crime. If you're patriotic, you're called a nationalist. You're called jingoistic, even racist. Right? And it's part of like thing. Listen, I've made inroads with my second book, and like I said before, it'll make enemies, but it's part of the mindset in terms of like the international stage. And don't think for 1 minute that politics and football are not knitted together, because they are.
But it's funny you talking about the sort of nationalism thing, and I think everyone would say that rugby union certainly. They're all very.
Don't look there, but don't listen. Don't look at the rugby.
No. Let me just make this point.
Listen,
if you just make this point.
All right, go on.
You can at least say with those players in that dressing room, there's no egos in that dressing room with rugby union players. I don't see any.
It's all you're doing. All you're doing is confirming what I've said since 1988. I can't make out. I was one of the ones, and I actually the guy who sowed the seed was the physio at Leyton Orient, Bill Songhurst. Right? There's no reason whatsoever why we can't dip into other sports and learn from them. No. But this is what I'm going to put to you. This is what I put in my second book. Right? The manuscript sitting over there on the table. Right? And I've been through it, and I've took bits out that are too strong, and I've put bits in. I thought, no, that's staying in. Right? This is what you've got to bear in mind. They've got a different code. Firstly, they've got a different code, so they won't suffer it. Right, and he got semi-ridiculed, Eddie Jones, right, doing what I did, right, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, before Eddie Jones even knew where England was, right, which was dipping into other sports. He took the England rugby squad to the Budokai, right, and they had a judo lesson. So the point I'm making is, right, because I know his mum's Japanese anyway, but that ain't the point. He dipped into another sport to show them about like grappling, grabbing, how to tip people off balance, how to use their body weight to tip them off balance. So they're using their force against you, right? So when they push, you pull,
Right.
When they rescind, you push. So it's all these little nuances. He was teaching them by a version on the judo mat, right? So that was shot its bolt when someone broke their leg, because obviously they're doing a throw and the geezer didn't know to point his knee to the floor. You understand? So if you put a straight leg out and someone falls on it, it snap your leg. So that's the first thing you're taught on the judo mat, how to execute a particular throw, body drop, right? So you never stick out a straight leg, because if someone falls on it, the best case scenario is it's going to fucking pop all your ligaments, right? But that's another story. But because it happened to someone, they thought, oh, we'll swerve that. But the point being, they won't suffer it. The rugby lads won't suffer it. They want, and more tying in with a point that I made in my book, right? What you got to bear in mind is this, Joe. Right, you got, and this is the truth, and I've put in my book an example with Maradona. Right, you got to bear in mind the likes of the rugby lads. They have to raise their game 15% because the opposition here, God save the Queen, and they have already raised their game 10%. You understand? So the point I'm making is, when they hear our national anthem, you can see them bristling. You can see the Celts bristling with hate. You understand? So the English boys already know, oh, we better be on our fucking game, or else we're going to get smashed to bits by the Irish and by the Welsh and by the Sweaties, right? Because they're still talking about Edward Longshanks. Even the national anthem's talking about fucking Edward Longshanks. You understand? So that's how long their memory is. The French hate us because they wanted to conquer the world, and they didn't. We did. Right? We had a better empire, and the Italians the same. Although they're like sort of perennial wooden spoons. You understand what I mean? But you've got to bear in mind, whenever anyone hears our national anthem, right, particularly on the football field, they bristle with passion and hate. And straight away their adrenaline's gone up, and their level has already gone up 10%. So where the rugby boys are concerned, they're switched onto it, and they know that if they don't match them physically, right, they're dead in the water. Yeah. They're going to give them a 2-try start and 2 conversion start straight away. Yeah. So they have to raise their game 50%. So it's all part of the mindset, and I maintain that, and I truly believe that inside me. You understand? So you've got to match that. But going back to the original point, I just think like part of being elite is the having the humility to sit down and listen to your teacher.
Yeah, open your mind.
Yeah, and that's listen. That's from bitter experience.
Lastly, pitches. Going back to moving on to pitches. In your day, I guess they were shit. Has pitches? This was another question that come in. So sorry to change the subject, but have the quality of pitches improved the game for the better? But is it interesting or not that the games that are in our sort of minds, in our memories of the best games you've ever seen, ain't necessarily on the best football pitches? You know, they're some of them were on shit pitches because they were up and at them, smashing people to bits. You know, 4-3s, that sort of thing. So I suppose we touched on this a couple of weeks ago about, you know, as the passion gone out of football. But as pitches, I mean, that sounds a little bit kind of silly to say, but as the quality of pitches maybe taking the passion out of football, because no. So you think it's a good thing?
No, from a player's point of view, so we had a magnificent surface at Gillingham under Keith Peacock, who had a great relationship with the groundsman, young Bill, right? And Keith would say, we're playing so-and-so this week. So he would go into quite intricate detail about how long he wanted the grass. He said, because what we've done, we've rehearsed this, or we've rehearsed that. So we'd have a slick passing game from back to front, with all good footballers in every compartment of the side, the back four. So Sharp, Sitton, Bruce, Adams, and then you'd have like Tideman, Dean White centre, then Paddy Powell wide right, Colin Duncan wide left, and then different forwards. Maybe probably the best centre forward was a converted centre half, Mark Weatherly, Trevor Lee, who made an appearance on Twitter yesterday. Him and Phil Walker, who I played with at Gillingham, two lads who were supposedly pioneers at Millwall. Why? What? Because they was black. But like top draw lads and good players, really good players. So we'd have a slick passing game, really short grass for that. Or we might be, we come up against someone who they try and squeeze up on us, and they were really like lethargic at the back, right? So rough translation, really like slow cart horses. So what we'd do, we'd look to dink it into the grass behind and turn them. Right. So Keith would want the grass a little bit longer
to hold the ball up.
To hold the ball up. Right. So little things like that. Right. So the bottom line is this: from a player's point of view, all it guarantees, and I'm going to give you the reasons why. All it guarantees, the better surfaces, is that you can take certain things for granted, as in when you control, because you can do it in one, you control and get the ball out your feet in one movement, right? You know exactly where that ball's going to be. When a ball's punched into you, you know it's going to run true. When you ping a ball or you roll a ball, you know it's going to run true. When you dink a ball, you know it's going to run true, right? Whereas on the thing, the so-called muddy pitches where you set up an atom, I think it's a bit of a myth. I think like it wasn't so much up and at them. It was the fact that like sometimes players either took Ray Wilkins to be the prime example again, Worthington who I come up against, Liam Brady who I come up against. Although at Highbury you didn't have that headache, that was another unbelievable pristine surface, really top draw, fantastic surface to play on.
Hudson had to part with shit pitches, though, didn't he? He was a ball player.
Well, that's what I'm going to come to. That's what I'm going to come to. Right? You got players who all they would need to do is take more care. Right? So it was the same game, but on one pitch you can take things for granted. On another pitch you've got to take more care. So then, in terms of the football played, I arc back to the Stoke 4 Manchester City 0 on an absolute mud bath. Hudson scored one, made one. Jeff Hurst was his teammate in that actual fact. Then I watched another game the other day, Big Match Revisited, and they think that the halfway line, the attempt at goal from the halfway line was invented by Beckham and Cantona and Pele. Well, they showed Manchester City 1, West Ham 5, and Joe Corrigan dribbled the ball out to the edge of his box, right? So instead of, which is really piss poor coaching from his goalkeeping coach point of view, you should try and stay central, right? And then what you talk to about a goalkeeper is you talk about him putting an angle on it. So unless he's really like a magnificent dead ball kicker like I had with behind me, Paul Hild, he would dribble to the right of his box and he would bed it in right to the corner of the opposition 18-yard box, right? What you say to a goalkeeper is if you start in the middle, you can then pick a side because you say, what you normally say is put an angle on your clearance, right? Joe Corrigan, he dribbled to the right-hand side of his 18-yard box. You're talking a mud bath. You're talking the ball getting stuck in puddles. And it's some of the best football I've seen played. Man City 1, West Ham 5. Anyway, he mishits the clearance out of his hands. He's kicked the ball out of his hand, mishits the clearance, and it goes skew-whiff into the centre of the park. And then right in the centre circle there, just in the Manchester City's half, Ronnie Boyce hits a volley straight back into the net. Right, so the first goal you'll ever see from the halfway line, by one touch by the opposition, and that was on a mud bath. So in a nutshell, Joe, I think the point being, there's certain things where on those surfaces you would have had to take care, right? And the relevance of that game is it was his first game for West Ham, Jimmy Greaves. So the partnership up front was Greaves and Hurst, England's greatest goal scorer, who had his place taken by the World Cup final hat-trick hero, end up playing together. Right, and then the theme.
What year would that have been? Early 70s?
Yeah, early 70s. The theme being, I think about 71, maybe 1970, 71. The fact that he'd scored for every club on his debut that he played for. Chelsea, Milan, Tottenham, West Ham. That was Greavesy. He got a couple. Hursty got a couple. And Ronnie Boyce got the volley from the halfway line.
Greaves didn't play in the World Cup 1970, did he?
No, he drove a Ford Escort there. He was in.
Why didn't he play? Do you know?
Good enough. You'll have to ask ourselves Ramsey. I'm still questioning why Jeff Hassel got on in front of Peter Osgood against Brazil.
But what was that? What? Osgood and Astle were not Jimmy Greaves. That makes sense, does it?
You can question Astle, but you can't question Ozzy. Ozzy was one of the greatest centre forwards of his era.
Yeah, but Jimmy Greaves isn't he? He's the best.
Yeah, well, he obviously Ramsey obviously retired him because I think what happened was he took part in the Mexico World Cup rally, didn't he? And you've got the famous story where he's sitting as he's the co-pilot, and they're driving an Escort RS 2000 all the way across the South America or wherever the fuck, and he climbed through the window when Bobby Moore was being held on remand under at gunpoint, and he climbed through the hotel window. It's all right, Moro, when he got nicked for the bracelet.
Right.
Yeah.
On the was there a story that you crashed a car into the ground at Leighton Orient?
Nah, Blackwall Tunnel. I had to walk the length of Blackwall Tunnel.
Was that when you was manager or was a player?
Not Millwall. I was player at Millwall. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Well, it weren't drink driving. It was just I hit a wet patch and I was going too fast for the bend. Yeah. It's
was you all right? You got out of it all right?
Yeah, I got out of it all right, but the car didn't. Okay. It smashed to bits. And in those days, no such thing as a mobile. I looked around, there was no phone box. So I thought, what do I do now? Either walk back that way, and I just thought, no, I just want to get home. So I walked the full length of Blackwall Tunnel and then come up onto what would now be, or what is, I think, East India Dock Road. And then found a station and got home. And then I had to ring someone to come and tow it away.
Tow the motor away. Okay, now.
Yeah.
All right, John. Well, I think we've covered.
You do these things when you're young. When you're young and crazy, you can't be told. I couldn't anyway.
No.
Yeah. If anything, I needed someone like me to talk to me.
Yeah.
I needed someone that was like advice from Ray Wilkins, advice from David A, advice from Ronnie Harris, and it was on a take it or leave it basis. So I left it. I needed someone like me to be able to talk to me, the younger version of me.
Maybe you are the way you are now because you wanted to tell yourself. Do you know what I mean? Maybe you had to be like that in order for you to be like you are now. Yeah,
well, my oldest, she's took out of me. You know, what happens is with some, this is what I mean by, well, I spoke in my first book about the elite player initiative. And I said, I don't know who formed that one because, like, the people who, what you've got to bear in mind, Joe, the people who thought of the idea, they might not be that elite themselves.
Yeah.
You understand what I mean?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
And then the next question is, apart from the fact that the people who thought up the elite player initiative not being that elite themselves, so in brackets, I put they might not know what they're looking at, close brackets. You then it then begs the question, well, what you're doing, you're discounting 50% of what's in front of you.
Yeah.
Or 70% or 80% of what's in front of you, right? So let's say you've got 100 players and someone who thinks that they are the self-appointed guru who says, and I think the person who thought of it was Al Wilkinson, right? So he's not that elite himself. Have it right. Let's have it right, yeah? In terms of coaching, he had a very basic playing style based on 7-mile cross-country runs. And great players who he could give them the responsibility, like Gordon Strachan, Eric Cantona. He could give them the responsibility.
Lee Chapman.
No, who's the number 2 to Gerrard?
Who's not McAllister, is it?
Yeah, well, he had him in midfield. People like him and Strachan.
Yeah. Chapman was up front, wasn't he?
People, that was Sheffield Wednesday predominantly, and a little bit Leeds. But you know what I'm driving at. You understand? I can say to McAllister, Strachan, Cantona, get on with it.
Yeah.
Right. So the point being,
Tony
the elite player initiative might have been thought of someone who's not that elite themselves and don't really know what they're looking at, right? So then it begs the next question. If you say, well, out of 100 players, I decree, I'll put down this coaching, I'll determine, and this I've decreed that these 20 players are elite, straight away you've discarded 80%, right?
Well, it's elitist, isn't it? It's elitist.
Right. And out of that 80%, who's to say that you might not have another 15 elite players who are late developers?
Yeah.
Which is where I think the whole system was complete and utter bollocks, complete shambles. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like what do they call it? Like virtue signaling, spin doctoring. You know what I mean? Oh, well, we've got this new initiative. Like this is what we're going to call it.
Yeah. It was rebranded.
Well, what about the 80 you've left out? Because out of that 80, another 20 might make it and end up playing in the Premier League. You know,
short-sightedness, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it is. Yeah. And before you think of that, before you think of elite players, what they should have done, the FA, they should have started thinking about turning out elite coaches. Right. So I'm in a quandary. Right. I'm going to make this public now. Right. So this is like breaking news, and it's a little bit selfish and it's a little bit narcissistic, and it's not playing to a really great audience. Right. Although we'd love it to be bigger. But I mean, I've got a quandary because what I want to put out in my second book should be worth, in terms of courses to the FA and in terms of me receiving pay, it should be worth millions. But I know I'm not going to sell enough books to get millions. I'm only going to get a couple of bags out of it. You understand what I mean? So I'm in a quandary as to whether to put it out because I'm giving great information out free of charge. You know what I mean? So the bottom line is there might not be a book two. I've been thinking all day, and I was thinking about it so hard I fell asleep for 20 minutes, woke up and I carried on thinking about it again.
Yeah.
Why would I put out
you know what you want to do. You know what you want to do.
It's me saying it about me. I know it's me saying it about me, but I promise you it's the case because I've got all these questions. I've just given you a couple, but I've got all these theories in answer to questions that I've actually thrown out there in the manuscript with regards to what's going on at the FA. I mean,
I think you need to drip feed it. You know, it's how big books are released, isn't it now? You know, they're drip fed into the public consciousness through having to deal with the Daily Mail or something like that. So you could drip feed a couple of bits on Twitter and gauge opinion. You don't have to release the whole thing first.
Yeah, well, that I know I'm not going to get the suitable financial recompense for what it's worth. Listen, you've got Muppets. Trust me when I tell you, right? Muppets, borderline brain dead, right? They've got the imagination of a newborn baby, right? That have had millions out of the game, if not hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands out of the game, right? I'm thinking, you know what? Fuck this. I've been down that route before, and went above and beyond the call of duty for no reward. Why should I do it again?
To be discussed.
Yeah, to be discussed. Yeah, why not?
Because
yeah, we could do bits and pieces on here because I could go on all night about it. Yeah. But I've mentioned it before, Joe. A quick, for instance, like a mate of mine, and I couldn't believe it. I was watching EFL on Quest, and I thought, is that him? He's at QPR now. Well, I come up through the coaching ranks with him, right? And he was under Wenger for 22 years. Well, when we went to Lilleshall in '97, he played the part of a manager in a role play scenario, right? Where a player had to pretend that he had a socially transmitted disease. They're saying, you're the manager, deal with this. And then a player comes, he says, I've got my girlfriend pregnant. And he said, well, that's, he said, yeah, but my wife don't know. So all the fucking place, the lecture theatre erupts in laughter, right? And then he says, and I think I've given her a sexually transmitted disease. And then he said, all right. So as he starts to solve that problem, he starts talking about, yeah, and I've got a drug problem. And I've got a gambling. And, you know, so the bottom line is, and then they regurgitated everything we already knew about drills regarding ballistic stretching. And I laid on the grass. I just thought I'd do a Jeff first. I lay on the grass and chew a blade of it. I'm not fucking doing it again. It's already in here. Mm-hmm. You understand? Mm-hmm. What you should be doing, you should be getting coaches in to put on specimen sessions. And when you talk about drip feed, here's one. Not one coach came in and did a specimen session on different formations. Mm-hmm. That's what I said to you. So what happens is you get the qualification, and then the coach goes away with the qualification, right? And then it's like driving. Yeah. You do your lessons to drive after. And you get the license, and it's like I said to you, people go away. They're good drivers, really good drivers. There's drivers who are just about getting away with it, and there's drivers who should never have been allowed near a set of ignition keys. Well, they're the same three categories of coaches. Mm.
Yeah. Well, I think we should cover that off in the next session. We've done an hour and 45 now. Sure. So yeah, I think that was a really good discussion. Hopefully everyone enjoyed it out there in cyberspace and on YouTube and on Twitter. And yeah, as always, please give us your feedback. Please support this venture. We hope you enjoy the uncensored element of it. John speaks from the heart, and you know I try and ask probing questions to get under the bonnet of football, and there's a lot of content here. We hope that you don't get anywhere else, and hopefully we can continue it. But please spread the word, and it'd be good to get more questions and feedback you know, our Twitter handles are underneath. DM John. You don't mind people sliding into your DMs, John, do you, in terms of direct messages? Similarly, me. So reach out. The more questions, the better. And you don't mind answering them, John. So
that's right. And continue. Watch, share, subscribe.
Yeah.
Because I'm led to believe we picked up a few more subscribers from last week.
Good.
So that's good. It's good and refreshing, and then we'll got to keep building on it.
Yeah, exactly that.
But trust me, like, you know, if you get me into it and like the touch paper, we can go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and there'll be strong opinions. Not everyone will agree with them, but that's what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly.
The difference between me and grey moribund certain pundits is the fact that, like, mine's an informed opinion.
Yeah.
And you know, apart from I've been in the environment, but apart from playing at international level, I think I've covered mostly everything else.
But you're passionate. You speak from the heart, John, and that can't be said for a lot of people in the game. It's all paying lip service, isn't it? And I don't think anyone can label you doing that. So
yeah, well, we don't have to give the corporate answers, do we?
No, exactly that. Uncensored by name, uncensored by nature. Okay, everyone. Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.